Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Okay, so today we're really diving into like a deep dive.
Hmm?
Peter Thiel, I feel like everyone's heard of him, but he's kind of this like Silicon Valley enigma.
He really is. And the stuff you sent over, this Who is Who in AI profile, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's based on a whole podcast series about him, right?
Yeah, so it's like we're getting almost like a highlight reel of this incredible life.
And we need a highlight reel because where do you even start? Chess prodigy as a kid.
It's honestly kind of unbelievable. Like, he was practically born to be some kind of like strategic mastermind, you know?
It's true. It's like those early years of chess. They really did something. I mean, talk about analyzing, thinking ahead, anticipating your opponent's moves.
That's Thiel, like his whole MO, whether it's business or anything, really.
And then he goes to Stanford, excels obviously, but then co-founds a conservative newspaper. It's not your typical like Silicon Valley liberal.
No, not at all. I mean, this tells you something about his core beliefs, right? That libertarian streak, it was there from the start.
Yeah, it's like deeply ingrained. So we've got super smart, strategic, and already challenging the norm, then law school. Seems like a curveball.
You'd think so, but even a little bit of law, especially for Thiel, it's all about systems, right? Seeing how things work, the power dynamics, maybe even the flaws in the system.
Okay, so law school wasn't just some random thing. It was like reconnaissance.
Exactly, gathering intel. But then, of course, he pivots hard, ditches law, boom, PayPal, right in the thick of the dot-com craziness.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Because with PayPal, you see, he's not just got ideas. He can execute.
Totally. Online payments back then, revolutionary. But he builds this company, scales it, the whole thing. This wasn't some hobby.
And sells it to eBay for a fortune.
Oh.
So now he's a visionary and loaded. Most people would be on a beach somewhere.
Right. But not Thiel. This is where he sets himself apart. Uses the money to, like, fund the next wave of what he thinks is going to change the world.
Okay, so it's the early 2000s. Dot-com bubble just popped. Everyone's freaking out. But not Thiel. He takes his PayPal millions and launches, wait for it, a hedge fund.
Clarium Capital. Yeah, it doesn't exactly scream disruptor, does it?
Not really. Kind of a head-scratcher.
But that's Thiel. Always thinking differently. He's playing the long game.
Okay, so it's not just about the money. It's more like strategic positioning or something.
Exactly. He gets it. To really have impact, you gotta be in the game. And finance. That's a whole other level of power.
But come on, the story everyone knows is Facebook. 2004, Facebook's still just a, like, college toy, and Thiel drops $500,000. First outside investor.
It's legendary. But again, classic Thiel. Everyone else saw Fed. He saw the future.
That contrarian thing again, everyone's running from .com. He's doubling down, kind of.
He was. And he understood something really basic. People want to connect. Facebook, even back then, it tapped into that.
And that investment paid off big time when Facebook went public. Cemented Thiel as this.
Yeah.
Like Oracle, seeing things others miss.
Totally. But it wasn't just Facebook. He co-founds Founders Fund. And that's where it gets really wild.
Yeah, they backed some companies that at the time sounded insane.
SpaceX, Airbnb, Spotify. These were huge swings. Thiel wanted to change the world, and I wasn't afraid to take risks.
And probably no company embodies that more than Palantir. I mean, talk about fascinating, but kind of creepy all at once.
Right. Big data, but it's used by, like, governments and intelligence agencies.
Yeah, it feels very spy movie. A little too close to home, honestly.
They analyze massive amounts of data, looking for patterns, connections, stuff humans could never do. And yeah, it raises some serious ethical flags.
No kidding. Where's the line between, security and just, like, total surveillance?
Exactly. And Thiel's right in the middle of that debate. He says the benefits, like national security, outweigh the risks.
It's that tension again, though, right? Progress versus the potential downsides. And he seems to almost like being in the hot seat.
He does. He
Yeah.
forces us to confront those tough questions about the technology we're creating, the kind of future we're building.
It's wild, right? We barely scratched the surface. And it's like Thiel's got his hands in everything. It's not just about tech anymore.
No, it's way bigger than that. It's almost like he sees Silicon Valley as just one piece of a much, much larger puzzle.
And he's got to be the one putting the pieces together.
Kinda. He's got this, like, grand vision, and he's not afraid to, actually do something about it. Which brings us to politics.
Right, because you can't talk about Thiel without talking about, well, his political life.
Libertarian, right? Big supporter of Ron Paul early on.
Yeah, but even then, he was kind of an outlier in Silicon Valley. But then his support for Trump, that really shook things up.
Majorly. I mean, in the heart of, like, liberal tech world, right? It was a bold move.
To say the least. But again, it's Thiel, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
care about fitting in. It's about what he actually believes. Principles over popularity, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just, like, voting or donating.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy who starts the Thiel Fellowship, telling kids to skip college, start companies.
The Thiel Fellowship, talk about shaking up the system. He looked at education, especially for, like, would-be entrepreneurs, and was like, this is broken.
Yeah.
Like, go learn by doing, not sitting in a classroom.
Exactly. Traditional education, it's slow, it's risk-averse, and Thiel, he's all about moving fast, breaking things.
And then there's 0 to 1. His book, co-written with Blake Masters, it's practically required reading in Silicon Valley now.
It really is. And it lays out this whole philosophy, which at first sounds kind of crazy. Monopolies, not competition, drive innovation.
Right. Isn't competition supposed to be the magic ingredient? That's what we always hear anyway.
Thiel says no. He's like, look, to really move forward, you got to create something totally new, something so good you've got an edge, at least for a while.
So it's about being so disruptive that you change the entire game, which, honestly, that's Thiel in a nutshell. Totally. But it's not all just business and disruption, though. He's also really big into philanthropy. But, typical Thiel, it's not your average charity.
Oh, yeah, the Thiel Foundation. That's a
Yeah.
whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Seasteading, floating city.
It sounds like science fiction, but he's serious. And longevity research, trying to literally extend human lifespan.
Let's not forget AI. He's all in on AI. It's like he sees these huge challenges, aging, the limits of traditional societies, and says, we need to think bigger.
Exactly. Think bigger, bolder. Which, I mean, you can't talk about Thiel without talking about Gawker, that whole situation.
Yeah, funding that lawsuit, it was huge news. Definitely raised a lot of eyebrows, even from people who usually agree with him.
To put it mildly, it became this whole thing about, like, how much power is too much, especially for someone like Thiel who's not afraid to use it.
Right. Freedom of the press, wealth, influence. It got messy. And honestly, that kind of sums up a lot of the Thiel story, right? Yeah.
It does. He pushes those boundaries, makes us ask those really uncomfortable questions about where technology is taking us, the ethics of it all.
It's easy to form an opinion about him, one way or the other. But no matter what you think, you gotta admit, Peter Thiel is one of a kind.
Absolutely. Love him or hate him, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's changed the world, and he's not done yet.
Well said. This deep dive has been intense, to say the least. I feel like we could talk about Thiel for, like, a week straight.
Right. There's just so much there. It's been great breaking it all down with you, though. Really fascinating stuff.
Likewise. And for anyone listening, if this got you thinking, if you've got your own take on Peter Thiel, let us know. This is a conversation that deserves to keep going. Until next time, jive deep, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.